So we seem to have this call to answer the big question, should Catholics watch these things or study these things?
Yes. Do we accept?
Well, there's no call we don't answer.
Very true.
Unless it's from unknown numbers.
Yes. Then we let it go to voicemail, and then we delete the voicemail, don't we?
If it isn't important, correct, yes.
True.
But there isn't a trust that we betray. At least we try to. Anyway. Greetings and welcome to another episode of Catholicism and Coffee. I am Stephen Gasinski.
I am Beth Kaczynski.
We talk about Catholicism, all things Catholic, and enjoy some great brews. Today we're going to be continuing our Should Catholics series. Should Catholics watch or read Dune?
So this answer is a little complicated. Now Dune overall I think is a great novel and a great film duology.
Yeah.
So far.
As of recording, Dune Messiah has not been released yet.
Yes.
Only Dune Parts 1 and 2.
Yeah. But there are some things in Dune that they obviously have Catholic inspiration, but they do not line up with the Catholic beliefs. Now, I would not go so far as to say, oh, it's sacrilegious, oh, it's blasphemy, because they're not pretending to be Catholic. It's just they happen to share names, but it's obviously different. So you have to go in knowing this and understanding this.
Now, for background's sake, Frank Herbert, who wrote the original novel, was taught by Jesuits, and we can reasonably assume he was raised Catholic. So there's a group of sisters called the Bene Gesserits, who are power players.
Yes.
So there's that.
Mm-hmm. And they have Reverend Mothers.
They have Reverend
who are anything but Reverend.
Yes, they are quite vile,
yes.
In fact.
And the Bene Jesuits go around wanting to seduce young men and continue bloodlines of powerful families, so that's not exactly Catholic.
Yeah, they're trying to bring about the Messiah, but they're not allowing for a higher power to do it. They believe they are the higher power to allow for it to happen.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing about Dune is there's a lot of marriage and a lot of alliances, but their marriages are not sacramental.
No.
But we just have to accept this is the world that they live in. They are not Catholic. They do not know the Catholic faith, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to have sacramental marriage. It's all political, and there's plenty of political marriages, especially in history.
Absolutely. Like, for example, the main character that we follow throughout the film series especially is Paul Atreides. His mother is what is termed as a concubine.
Yes.
Now that sounds familiar because it's in the Bible for women who the kings have a relationship with but they are not married to.
Yes.
And there's actually one point where the Duke of Atreides, Paul's father, actually says, I should have married you, but there were for political reasons and other things that he could not. But he has a child with her, which is Paul.
And the child is his heir. And in the book, I think they go a little more into it where it's just, oh, he didn't get married because he was trying to maintain these political alliances with the hope of there could be a marriage that comes from this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, anything else in Dune that's just like, this might be un-Catholic?
Those are the major things. Another thing is there are challenges, which the only way you can win challenges either by surrender or killing your opponent, which surrender is usually not an option.
Yeah, so not the greatest pro-life messages.
No.
But despite all of these reservations with Dune, there are some very good morals and values and lessons in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Film duology.
Yeah. So what are some of these goods?
Well, you mentioned earlier the Messiah. We do have a messianic figure. It is Paul, as we mentioned before. So, for a little background, the Duke of Atreides and his son and Lady Jessica, Paul's mother, Duke's concubine, all go to this planet called Arrakis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotta get my pronunciations right. And there are these group of people on Arrakis called the Fremen. And a lot of the other houses in power look down on them. They're just like, oh, whatever, they're nothing, we can kill them easily. But the House Atreides, the Duke and Paul especially, they respect them. They value them. And then Paul and Lady Jessica actually go to live with them. And then the Fremen see how powerful Paul is because he's part Bene Gesserit.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to think of him as their Messiah, their Savior. He can free them from the oppression they face from these power-hungry families in power.
Yeah. And there's actually a really good scene to show the Duke's character. There's one point where the leader of the Fremen, I think it's Silkar,
I think you're right.
who goes to meet with them because the Duke actually sends his soldiers out to try to find them to make contact because he wants peace.
Yes.
And one of his best pilots actually finds them and brings them there, and Silkar actually spits upon the ground. The Duke's lieutenant is like, "Oh, this is disgusting. You're disrespecting the Duke." And actually, in their culture, spitting is saying, "Oh, we're showing respect by giving of the water because Arrakis is a desert world."
Yes, water is very valuable.
So there's that moment, which is really neat. And he returns the gesture as a sign of respect.
Yes.
So there are these. So that just shows how the characters are, and they respect their culture. Now, on the other side, there's the House Harkonnen.
They're awful.
They are quite vile. They have no qualms about killing anybody. They killed a lot of the Fremen, and the Fremen basically drove them off of Arrakis for a bit because they were like, "We're tired of you killing us. We're tired of you abusing us." So,
And isn't it House Harkonnen who's responsible for the death of the Duke? Spoiler.
yes, they lead the attack, but they had the backing of the Emperor, which you find out in part 2. The Emperor was afraid of the Duke, of taking his throne. And funny enough, the Duke is not even interested in that. He's just like, "I just want to live my life and be the best leader of my house that I can be because that's my birthright."
Yes, he's a very honorable man, as is his son.
Uh-huh. So,
Yeah, so with the Harkonnens, we learned what not to do, how not to be. Don't be seeking power, willing to kill for the sake of gaining.
yeah.
And don't treat other people like dirt.
Yeah. Because they even have gladiatorial games on one of their planets, and they send the nephew of
Yeah,
their
Fredretha, I think is his name.
yeah, and he is psychotic.
Yes.
And their Duke is anything but honorable. He's a blob, a literal blob of mess, and he rewards his nephew by sending him a member of House Atreides. And the nephew has a very twisted sense of honor, but it's not really honor, it's psychotic.
They are psychotic, but in the end, because House Atreides, even though they think, oh, Paul has been killed, Lady Jessica's been killed, they're actually hiding with the Fremen, and then they ally with the Fremen and overthrow some people.
Yeah.
So be careful how you treat people. They'll remember.
They remember.
Yes.
Memories are long.
Yeah.
And the Emperor actually also lost because the Fremen and what remnants of House Atreides there are fight back.
Yes.
And also we just see there's some stuff that actually is true. There's dishonorable behavior. The doctor,
Dr. Tue?
yeah, 2A, betrayed House Atreides and gave the Harkonnens the opening, and he ends up dying too.
Yeah. By the Harkonnens and the Emperor.
Yeah.
So those who promise you things, those can be false, and we experience that in life with the evil one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But as we said, courage is rewarded.
Yes.
Because Paul is courageous. The Fremen are courageous,
Yes.
and they manage to win in the end.
And another very good thing this movie series franchise shows is overcoming obstacles. Because the Harkonnens come in, they seem to demolish House Atreides. But Paul and Lady Jessica, they're able to hide, to escape, to remain safe. And then from there, things are not easy for them. They live in palaces and nice places, and now they're having to rough it in the desert. And also, Lady Jessica's pregnant.
Yeah, so she even has a even harder time.
Yes, but then the Fremen take them in, and the Fremen live very differently.
Yeah.
But they continue to live and just work and try to get back to the place where the royalty live, to claim their rightful place. And they don't give up, even when things are so difficult.
Mm-hmm. And so the lesson to learn from that is, what do we do when we hit rock bottom? We have to persevere and do our best and make the best of our situation. And we see that with what the remnants of House Atreides, and they actually do it quite well.
Yes. So, a lot of good things in Dune. Some things that are a little questionable. So, should Catholics be watching this?
I would say yes.
Yeah. I think yes, if it's something that interests you. Now, you don't have to go seek it out because there's not some great moral theology lesson that you have to know, but it is good, solid entertainment. You just have to understand their world is very different from ours, but we can learn things from their world. We can learn the need for a Messiah, why people hope for something greater than themselves. Because Paul seems very powerful to the Fremen. He seems supernatural in a way.
And in some ways he is.
Yes, and we have our Messiah, who is supernatural, true God and true man. We need Jesus.
Absolutely. It's actually really good insight into the Old Testament.
It really is.
So you can understand the kind of world they were living in. It doesn't make it necessarily right, but it does give some insight, which is helpful.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, but one of the big tests we have for, is a movie really moral, is, are the good guys good, are the bad guys bad? Now, do the good guys in Dune do some questionable things? Well, yes, they do kill people, but not to gain power.
No.
And not because they just like killing or something like that. It's an honorable thing in their world.
Yeah, and it's to defend themselves.
Yes.
For example, when, in the end of part 2, Paul is face to face with the Emperor, and he tries to get him to surrender peacefully. He's like, "We outgunned you. You're outmanned.
Mm-hmm.
We have you surrounded. Surrender." And the Emperor refuses and Paul issues a challenge, and he's like, either you take the challenge, or you surrender. And one of the Harkonnens takes the challenge. He defeats the Harkonnen.
It's for Dretha, isn't it?
It's for Dretha.
Yeah.
Defeats the Harkonnen, and he's like, okay, here's how you can keep your honor intact. I'll marry your daughter, so that way there's a peaceful transition of power. The Emperor refuses pretty harshly, and then other parts of the system will not accept Paul's rule, even though he won it honorably.
He did. Yeah. Another thing is the main characters, they don't have a sacramental view of marriage. But let's be honest, few do, unfortunately.
It's a sad state of affairs.
It is.
Any final thoughts?
If this sounds interesting to you, it's a good kind of old-fashioned science fiction, some elements of fantasy.
Yeah, it's excellent world building. Director Denis Villeneuve. I haven't seen the David Lynch film, but Denis Villeneuve is a huge fan of the book, and he wanted to do it justice, and he actually, in my opinion, he actually did a very good job.
Yeah.
It's a very well done film. They're two very well done films, and they're being recognized in a lot of parts, which is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, very good cast too.
The cast is excellent.
Yes.
Everyone brings their A game. It's actually so pleasant to see. So the big question, should you check it out? I would recommend you do, if this is something of your interest. Now, if it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But if we at least pique your interest a little bit, definitely check it out. Anything else we should add?
Well, we are in the season of Lent now. So if you're still looking for something to do, we have our Lent devotional available on Amazon. And if you're looking for something else to do this Lent, check out our course.
Yes. We'll have a new promo code. We'll put that in the description of this video.
We do have a new promo code now. So get 40% off for the first 40 buyers. So if there's still time, go and see if you can be one of the first 40.
Yeah. And some new stuff at Catholicism and Coffee. We have a new blog contributor. We want to welcome Christopher Chance, who actually contributed the last blog post. If you've been paying attention to our social media, he's going to be joining us for a few things. Maybe even come on the show.
Yeah. He's probably going to leave a comment on this video, as he often does.
He's a good friend of the show,
yes.
and we.
So if you want to leave or want to contribute to our blog, leave comments on our videos. It might work out for you.
Yeah. No, his blog post is excellent. Definitely check that out and check out our other stuff.
Yes, please do.
In the meantime, be bold, be brave, be courageous. Enjoy your beverages. God bless.